those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? We're out of convention. It makes it. Okay, now you can have a 10-minute break. Thank you.
But except for you have to sit for these 10 minutes.
Okay.
While we are hard at
If we've
work.
got food, I'll do it. All right.
That's fine.
Oh, yes.
I want lunch.
We have lost Representative Merrow. I don't think we've lost anyone else. But let's go now to continue our meeting. And on the agenda,
Were you ready to go?
Yep, all ready to go. What I wanted to do, there was a policy committee meeting that, policy subcommittee meeting that Representative Fleck held, and I'd like a report on that, so go for it, Joe. Representative
Yes,
Fleck.
we did meet on August the 15th and of 2011, and the representatives there were Frank McCarthy, Harry Merrow, Steve Schmidt, and myself. And Representative Tregenza had other commitments and was not able to be there. Present also were Commissioners Solomon and Kenny. And we had non-public, public, Ed Comeau and Damon Steer were there. I started out by, and you should have a set of these minutes in front of you. I started out by stating the purpose of the meeting, or the committee, the subcommittee. And as I noted in the minutes, Representative McCarthy thought it was more specific than that, essentially that we would deal only with the proposal that he had put forth at an earlier delegation meeting. We did go ahead and hear, again, Representative McCarthy's resolutions, and but apparently I think I can sum it up this way. The issue hinged on whether or not legally the delegation appropriated funds to specific lines. That issue, that discussion continued, and finally we determined that we could not go further because we wanted a legal opinion as to whether or not transfer of funds could be made between lines without delegation approval. In other words, is a line item a specific appropriation? So I think that's where the difficulty rested. And Representative McCarthy also stated that he felt that we were the only county transferring funds between lines, and Commissioner Solomon indicated she was going to be attending the New Hampshire Association.
I would get in touch with them.
Or get in touch with the New Hampshire Association of County Governments for a reading on what other counties do in that conducting their budget business. Another item that did come up was whether or not delegation members should be involved in negotiations, and it was the consensus that that was not appropriate, that those are essentially confidential negotiation processes, that only those people involved directly in a negotiation should be involved in that process.
Where's that? Oh, here it says that.
And then we did come up with several other items for continuation. One was a concern that county equipment not be used off the complex grounds. A point that Representative Schmidt brought up, and he will address that in his memo, that that we have some comparative data, some data that would give us a sense of whether or not our agencies, our departments are operating efficiently and effective. So he can address that. We also decided that the delegation should set parameters for employee negotiations. Again, Representative Schmidt also suggested that all department heads be involved in the development of policies relative to them. Also a discussion that perhaps the commissioners should have a handbook on policies for employees. And Representative Merrill brought up something that I think we've been hearing over and over again as it relates to the location of the Carroll County, the cooperative extension, and that is we have to include, or we should include, information for future delegations about the actions of previous delegations, so that when we deal with an issue, somehow there is some information of what previous delegations have done for that. I know we have minutes, but Harry Merrow was asking for something more than that. And I think that speaks to the problem that we've had on the relocation of the cooperative extension. And also we asked, and I think this is being done, that commissioners develop a policy governing line item accounting. Would you restrict your department heads from transferring items, funds between lines within certain boundaries, within certain fiscal boundaries? And those are the things that we still had onto discussion. It does feel like concussion today. Yeah. Onto discussion, and we will continue discussion of those and try to flesh those things out as we meet again. Well, anyway, I'm open to any comments.
Okay, you can take it.
Okay, yes.
Yes. I just have a, do we not have an employee book of what we expect from our employees in relationship to behavior or whatever?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yep.
Okay.
There seemed to be some discussion,
HR
though,
has that.
about whether or not...
Human Resources has that.
Okay.
Human Resources has all of that?
Yep, they have an orientation with new employees as to what is expected of them, how they grieve, the whole works.
Well,
Job
then-
descriptions.
Then I would suggest that your committee review what they currently have and see if it meets what you were thinking about in relationship to that. And I know that there's been some discussion about elected officials and that we may want to include, not in the employee handbook, but in another set of paper, our expectations for elected officials. Because we have, what, 4? Besides the commissioners?
Oh, what we as delegation members think that the other elected officials should do? That'd be, oh, is that what,
If I could
Yeah.
Well,
elaborate.
you know, I'm just,
yeah,
Yeah.
let's go.
The discussion centered around one particular department here, and what an elected official in this case could or could not purchase, you know, based on the understanding of the commissioners and what have you. The issue here that I made, that in the absence of anything in writing, it's really difficult, I think, to accuse anyone of malfeasance, if you will, in the absence of such a prepared document.
Oh, okay.
So that type of document, I think, would be helpful to be prepared. It should be socialized and discussed, and that would then give a basis on a going forward basis for any action the commissioners might want to take.
So such a policy statement or manual is not available for elected officials. And I'm not sure we have, would we have the authority to do that? And I would really question whether the commissioners might even have the authority to set up a standard.
I'm not sure one elected official can tell another elected official what to do. I think that the sheriff or the registry of deeds, as you're elected, or
Yeah.
with probate court, Gail,
And the
and
attorney.
the county attorney, that we as a delegation can say, you can do this, or you can do that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. I don't think that
I
that's where
think
it
the
is.
control is over the budget.
Yeah, our
That's where
control,
you control it.
yeah, that's the only thing.
And we also, as commissioners, are responsible for all departments with the exception of the deputies in the sheriff's department, according to a court case. We do have responsibility for their budget, with the exception of deputies.
Well, and it may be that what is required is something dealing with the budget and not dealing with whatever we have here.
Well, I think the major,
Employee code of conduct or, you know.
the major question there is uniform allowance. We do have it for deputies in the union contract,
The point is,
but he's not in it.
you don't pick out a particular person. You figure out what the policy is, and it applies to all elected officials. It's not a one or another. For example, the attorney may decide that he wants to charge mileage for coming to work. Okay? Now, is that appropriate or is it not appropriate?
It's not appropriate
But
if
I'm
you
just
didn't
saying.
pass it in the budget.
That's the point, is that you can pick and choose whatever you want. You know, since the registrar of probate is only going to get $100 starting this year, you know, does the county think that we ought to pay him or her mileage?
We don't have any control over it.
You know, I'm just saying that
As example.
it's only an example, but if we're going to set up some sort of conduct for elected officials, it has to apply to everyone. And it has to say either A, we're doing this, or B, we're doing this. We can't just pick and choose out of elected officials.
Representative McCarthy.
Yes, I agree with Representative Umberger entirely, and if you look at the RSAs, Title II, particularly Chapter 24 on, in every RSA, in every one of them, it specifically states elected or appointed county officers. It makes no distinction. They are all subject to the same laws, elected or appointed. And I would also like to say that nobody has accused anybody officially of any wrongdoing, as has been alluded to. What I said at the last delegation meeting was that it has come to my attention that a $200 pair of boots, an expensive pair of gloves, and dry cleaning is being charged to the county taxpayer by the county sheriff. He claims he never knew anything about this, when in fact, when it was brought up to him by Representative Babson, he said, well, I don't wear the boots to church. And at the last meeting I said, I would like to have at this meeting something in writing that shows that the sheriff had the authority to make these purchases on personal items of clothing, or that the sheriff should be required to reimburse the county. Now, that I don't think is accusing somebody. I gave him a choice. Either show where the authority came from, and I already talked to the chairman of the commission. He said there is no special deal with the county sheriff. He is not covered under the contract between the sheriff's department and the Teamsters Union. He has no authority, in my opinion, has no authority. And maybe he does, but he hasn't showed it to me yet, or the commissioner. So I still maintain that if he cannot show us the authority for him to have his laundry done on the taxpayer's expense, and have buying $200 pairs of boots and $30 gloves and whatever might be found on that credit card, he should be required to reimburse the county.
And that's all I'll say on that matter. Now, I have a couple of other things, if I may. At the subcommittee meeting for the policy, which I believe